Hey everyone, Reaper here again with another video, another week of crazy comic book prices. Like I said in previous weeks, I could do a video like this every single week. It's just so interesting and so fun and so unlike anything I've ever seen before in this hobby. I mentioned that things go up because of movies, speculation, whatever, but I've never seen anything go up as much as the times in which we're living right now. So, with that being said, let's take a look at the first book for this week with this one right here. Albedo 2. This is one that usually doesn't come up as much. And, I don't hear too much interest in this particular book, but nonetheless, it is still a pretty rare book. Only 2,000 copies produced. Now, the one and because of that, that's why I don't have too much to show you when it comes to this particular book. The one I just showed you is a 6.5 that's sold for almost $6,000. Unbelievable. I told this story when I originally got mine, which is a 9.0. Could use a press. It probably is a 9.2. But when I first got mine, about over 4.5 years ago, I originally wanted to get a copy a year before. But I didn't, because of some of the same reasons. Maybe some of you are like, well, Albedo 2, I don't know. But anyway, when I eventually got my copy, the 9.0, the man who was selling it had two copies. He thought that the copy he sold me was an 8.0, and I thought it was an 8.0 too, quite frankly. And the other copy he had was probably maybe a 6.0, 7.0. So I should have bought that copy too, honestly, because what I purchased my copy and what he was selling the other copy for is nothing compared to what it's going for right now, as evidenced as this mid-grade copy recent sale on eBay. Again, nuts, right? So let's move on to the next book, which is this one right here. Werewolf by Night 32. We all know this book's hot. It's been hot for a long time, a couple of years now. But, I still like to highlight it. We have a 4.0, we have some 4.0, 5.0 copies selling anywhere between $1,200 and almost $1,800. Really, really amazing. I think these books, even though Moon Knight was announced a while ago, he's going to have his own TV show and all that stuff, I think, though, that these copies, the 4.0, 5.0s, 4.5s, 5.5s, were selling more in the neighborhood of maybe $700, maybe even a little lower than that. And now to see that some of them are going up to almost $1,800 or somewhere in between between $1,200 and $1,800, I think definitely constitutes a crazy price, for these low to mid-grade books, Moon Knight, before I move on to the next thing, and I'll talk about the next thing, a little introduction about why I'm going to show you something a little different in a moment. But I think Moon Knight, and I've mentioned this in some of my older videos, that Moon Knight and Ghost Rider, out of some of those early Bronze Age first appearances, outside Punisher, outside Wolverine, Moon Knight and Moon Knight and Ghost Rider were always a little more expensive than Luke Cage, Sabretooth, Iron Fist, even Blade for a period of time. Now we know Blade is crazy prices for 8.0s, 9.0s. But Moon Knight was always a little more expensive than the other ones that I mentioned, Moon Knight and Ghost Rider. Now, it's could be a little out of range for a lot of people. I don't know. Sometimes when people that are interested in getting in this hobby, interested in collecting some of the older books, I don't know how you can do it now, because the prices are just, so far, from affordable. I guess that's why I don't do affordable videos anymore. Now, with this next item that I'm going to show, I'm going to start implementing some games. So I started off pretty basic for this video. I have 2 games to show. I'm a big Sega Saturn fan. Sega CD fan. Although I tend to probably prefer PlayStation over Sega, but I'm still a big fan of Sega Saturn. So anyway, let me show you this game right here. Panzer Dragoon Saga. This is not a surprise to anybody. Panzer Dragoon Saga is definitely a coveted Sega Saturn game, all right? But for the longest time, it was always expensive. I don't want to make it sound like this. So about 2 months ago, you could get this game for $100 or $50. No. For many years, this game was at a steady between $400 and $600. Now, within the last maybe few months, maybe even up to almost a year, this game commonly fetches the prices that I just showed you, anywhere between $1,000, depending on the condition, $1,000 to $1,400. Now, if this thing was sealed, and now, as we know, slabbing is now a thing when it comes to gaming, this game would be thousands upon thousands of dollars. On Instagram, I follow this one guy that shows some of the games that he wins, slab games, WADA games, 9.6s, I think that's a grade, if I remember correctly, of Nintendo games, maybe some Sega games, and the prices that these things are at, okay? For games like I wish I could give you an example off the top of my head, but just some of the prices, we're not talking like $500-$600. We're talking tens of thousands of dollars for some of these things. So the reason why I'm implementing, I'm going to maybe try to implement a game or two every now and then when I do these videos, is because it's really important. It's all part of crazy prices. Maybe crazy game prices should be another offshoot series I do. But just some things to keep your eyes on. But again, Panzer Dragoon Saga it's no surprise. But again, it's one of those expensive games that has become even more expensive as of late. So now let's go back to a comic book. Let me show you this one right here. Amazing Spider-Man 3, the first appearance of Dr. Octopus. 4.0. 4.0, almost $4,000. All right? Maybe a year ago, a year and a half ago, I would say that a 4.0 of first Doc Ock was anywhere between maybe $1,800 to maybe $2,100 on the high end. Now it's almost double, or in some cases double than what it was going for a year ago. So again, another book that's really shot up. And I like Dr. Octopus. I always wanted to upgrade my book to a 4.0. I have a 3.0, so I don't think I'm going to be doing that anytime soon. But, who cares? But it's definitely, again, one of those books that for a Spider-Man fan that really wants to collect Spider-Man, get some of those early Spider-Man villain appearances, even in low grades. And 4.0 is, I would say, a high-low grade. It's become so unattainable. And I think a lot of people are talking, well, what's going to happen? Are these prices going to go down? You just never know. This hobby, I've heard so many times, prices are going to go up, prices are going to go down, this is going to blow up, that's going to blow up, this is going to stay the same. You just don't know. The times in which we live are just so unpredictable. Now I'm going to show one more game for this video before I close up with two more comics, all right? So here's another game for you Super Nintendo fans. Earthbound. Again, another game like Panzer Dragoon Saga. That's no surprise it's expensive. It's been expensive for a while, but now we have an example here showing you that we have a loose, complete copy, the big box version, selling for, what was the price? Almost $1,700. I had to take a look at my notes here. Almost $1,700. That was selling for about $500 for many years. A complete open box Earthbound with the comes with the strategy guide, the game, and all the other inserts. And now we have a loose copy for selling for what the complete copy used to go for $500, almost $500. Again, crazy. Now, Earthbound, unlike Panzer Dragoon Saga, is not rare. It really isn't. Maybe it's rare to find a complete copy, but the game isn't rare. People just didn't buy it because no one gave a shit about it. Then some RPGs today are very sought out, very well liked, and even the RPG of modern era is different than the RPG of many years ago, of the time of Earthbound and before that. But at that time, before Final Fantasy VII, RPGs in this country, although it had a niche group of people that liked them, it wasn't mainstream. They weren't mainstream. And Earthbound came out a couple years before Final Fantasy VII. But, Nintendo produced a lot of them, but people weren't buying them because RPGs weren't typically as popular here in the West as they were in Japan. But nowadays, you try getting some of these older RPGs for Super Nintendo, for PlayStation 2, even PlayStation 3 games and PlayStation 4 games, they're really starting to pick up. So I'm going to see if I could delve a little bit into more modern games in these videos, the things that you should be keeping an eye on. But it's getting crazy. So anyway, enough of the games for this video. I got 2 more comics, so let's get started with this one, a book that I covered in the past, but I just have to cover it again because of I think it's a new price. Here it is. X-Men #1 at 3.0. Now, to be fair, I think a best offer was accepted for this, but still, it's crazy. It's probably a crazy price. But even if it's $13K, $14K, $15K, or $16K for a 3.0 X-Men, that is an insane amount of money. That is a true crazy price, a new crazy price for that grade of X-Men. You could buy that book 3.0 about 2 years ago, and I know that's a long time when it comes to this hobby. 2-3 years ago for about $3,000. About $3,000. Maybe a little over, maybe a little under. Now it's shot up to ridiculous amounts. So what does this mean? Does this mean, is this book ever going to go back down to $3,000? Well, you never know. In this grade, you never know. I don't think so. I mean, I think eventually some of these books, it's gonna go down a little bit, but to go down from 15 or 14,000 to 3,000, that's one hell of a dip. I just don't see it happening. But again, don't take my word for it. I'm just giving you my opinion, and I'm just showing you what's out there when it comes to recent sales. And the last book, it was bound to happen, but here it is. Amazing Fantasy 15, a book that we haven't talked about as much. 6.0 on Heritage, sold for almost $100,000. I think 4.0s, I mean, I don't have the data here for you, but I think you could check it for yourselves. And it's not too hard to believe. I think 4.0s are selling for late 30s, early 40s. Okay. I have a 2.0 copy. I think a 2.0 copy recently sold for about $18,000. I think, I could be wrong, give or take 1,000 or 2. I don't know. But of course, Amazing Fantasy is going to go up. If X-Men #1's going up to a crazy price, if all these other books like Ghost Rider and Giant Size X-Men, and even I think Doctor Strange is picking up steam or has picked up steam. Of course, the first appearance of Spider-Man, even Miles Morales, we talked about in the earlier Crazy Prices videos. The variant version and the regular version, they've gone up to crazy prices. Well, of course, Peter Parker's going to go up, and this recent Heritage auction, almost $100K. That's quite a price. That's a very strong price for Amazing Fantasy 15 in that grade. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video. I'll see if I could come up with another one next week and other things along the way. But if you have any suggestions when it comes to books to be on the lookout, please put it in the comments, and games too. I'm very interested in games, hearing more about your experiences if you're a game collector and all that stuff. Price differences you've noticed, because I'll tell you, we could talk about comics all day, every day, but gaming, it's hard to ignore nowadays when it comes to flippers, collectors, you name it, grading. It's definitely become much more lucrative over the last year and a half, 2 years than it was maybe 10 years ago. And gaming was always, was always picking up steam over the years when it comes to collecting games and flipping games. So thank you for watching, everybody, and take care.